So here it is, folks, the GoXLR Mini. I've been waiting quite a few weeks to see this bad boy in person. I've read a lot of good things about it. I'm super excited to see it. But it is kind of just a plain old white box. Opening up the package, we do have the mixer unit. I did already peel off the protective padding, or the protective screen on it. It also comes with the USB cable, and it also comes with a manual. And actually, after reading through some of the manual, I found it very useful that on the inside it tells you about the controls and all the different inputs and outputs, but more importantly, it actually tells you how to wire the whole thing up. You know, we spent a lot of time looking over how to wire up all of our different mixer setup and everything, and GoXLR just decides to cut out all the confusion and just tell you how to do it. So I do appreciate that. Just a couple things to note on this mixer. The single XLR input for the microphone is powered by the Midas preamp, which I've heard that it's really good for driving even the quietest of microphones. So I won't be able to test a lot of microphones, but I will be able to test a couple good budget ones. But overall, the build quality seems very solid, very sturdy. The side housing does appear to be metal, which I really do enjoy. The top does have like a plastic ring around it, which, you know, it's not that big of a deal, but that could get dinged up or chipped over time. But I do like the glossy finish on it. It's probably going to be a finger magnet, especially if you're pushing all these buttons and whatnot. But the sliders, they have a good amount of resistance on them. It does have some pretty precise feedback. I do feel like it's going to be a good experience with these. The buttons are rubberized, and they do have a good amount of stickiness to them, so you're never going to like accidentally try to push the button and not hit it. So I do like that. It comes with 4 inputs that are all programmable through the software. We'll talk more about the software, but I imagine you can reprogram these through a lot of things. So right now it's got mic, chat, music, and system, but I bet we can change those all out in software. Going to the back, the business end, we do have our one XLR input. This is for the Midas preamp. And then we've also got a line in and line out. According to the documentation, this is one of the places where we'll be sending in chat and other audio sources from the different PCs. USB is going to provide us with several different instruments or sound inputs going into our streaming PC. And then the optical input, this is going to be really nice, especially with our gaming computer, because I've never used that output on my motherboard before, so I finally get to put that to use. Here in the front, these are the monitor headphones as well as the monitor microphone. There was some asterisks in the installation guide on how to wire up a Blue Yeti. I don't own one of those, so we won't be testing that. But this is the GoXLR Mini. I like the quality. It is really small. It's just about the same size. It's about the same width as well. That's pretty cool. But it's actually going to fit really well in my little streaming setup area I've got over here. And let's get this all set up. GoXLR Mini into your computer, you're more than likely going to be required to do a firmware upgrade to your unit and possibly even updating the software for your GoXLR app. It's a very painless process, very straightforward. I think, right out of the box, it should take you just a few minutes to download and install and all that. I don't even think it forces a reboot of your system. So while this is installing, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button down below. It'll really help me out, as well as hit that bell icon, because we've got some more content coming out with this GoXLR Mini. So yeah, back onto the application. After we've installed all of our updates for the GoXLR, it's time to actually go and set up our microphone. So our Samson Q2U is actually a dynamic microphone, and we're just going to be talking into our microphone and adjusting the slider up until we can get that green knob to go right below loud and right above good. That way we don't have too aggressive of a gain. I think we ended up with 60 dB for gain, which gives us about 12 dB extra in case we want to plug in, a more sensitive microphone. If you have a condenser microphone, just select that and you turn on the phantom power. And if you got a 3.5 millimeter, click on that button and you'll get right to it. So now after we start playing, we can look at our gate, our equalizer, and our compressor inside of the microphone tab. And the gate, it's got similar options that OBS has. For my use, I'm going to just turn that dB down for the threshold all the way. For the equalizer, we've got bass, mid, and treble. This is kind of your English style EQ. If you click the little expander tab, you get access to the frequencies. And if you want to get even more fine-tuned, turn on fine tune. And you could adjust the specific frequency that's going to be adjusted by your little sliders. There are no units, so I imagine the units are in dB. So play with it, see what sounds best for you. Keep it on, going to the right, we can go and access our compressor. Again, this looks very similar to what's enabled through OBS. The threshold is going to be where the compressor triggers. Ratio is going to be how much the compressor will actually activate. So again, tinker with this setting as much as you can, see what sounds good to you in your particular environment. For me, I like to use 3.2 to 1 as my ratio, and I set my threshold to right around 10 dB in order to keep myself from getting too loud. All right, moving on, we're going to go to the mixer, and we got access to the different settings for our faders. And we can actually change the different channels for the faders to different devices created by the GoXLR itself. Now, one of the great things about this GoXLR app is that it's actually just a software control for the actual hardware inside the unit. So this unit, the GoXLR Mini, shares a lot of the guts that are inside of its bigger brother, the GoXLR. And the DSP routing, all that other hardware, as well as the Midas preamps. And this software is mainly just controlling and adjusting the different values. Selecting channel 3, we can see up in the top right, the different fader actions. And by actually changing the slider value in software, you can see the hardware as well as the little icon at the top right changing. So you know that the software and the hardware is very well integrated together. Since we only have 4 sliders, if you keep going to the right, we can actually adjust some of our less used options, and it's kind of a set it and forget it kind of thing. You don't want to be setting these things while you're in the middle of a stream. Now this is where the magic happens. This is the routing table, and this is going to actually define what inputs go to what outputs. So for our use here, we've got our headphones wired out to practically all of our inputs, so we know exactly what's going on. And then we can kind of define, what's going to go to our broadcast, what's going to line out, which is going to be my streaming PC. We'll talk about the settings in another video. And then lastly, the Systems tab is going to cover a bunch of the extra options. I wouldn't enable the analytics option just to keep privacy to myself. So what are some of my first impressions of the GoXLR Mini? I've been streaming with this mixer for a couple streams now, and it's just been a very pleasant experience. Ever since the first installation all the way until I've gotten the 2 PC setup, it's been straightforward. It's been not confusing at all, which is great and fantastic. Even for a tech guy like me, sometimes the wiring and the routing can get really confusing, and if you're not used to seeing, all the knobs and stuff on the mixer, it could be almost overwhelming. But with the GoXLR Mini, I had none of those problems, and it was just so straightforward, so simple. it made streaming just night and day from a quality perspective and even from a usability perspective. Because when you're in the heat of the moment, you don't want to be having to change settings on the fly. You know, you just go in and change some faders, you keep doing what you're doing and entertaining your viewers. And that's the end goal. That's why people pay the money to buy these products. So would I recommend the GoXLR Mini? Yes and no. It's a great product and it's very top shelved, and I would recommend it to streamers that just are going to be going straight to this as their end game. You know, I would even bypass the standard GoXLR. This unit's got a lot of the same hardware, all the way from the Midas preamps, all the way down to the routing hardware, as well as the DSP. This unit is equivalent in that regard to the GoXLR, so this saves you about 150 bucks. You know, maybe even invest that into a microphone. That would be a really good setup for an in-game setup. The only thing I wouldn't recommend it for is if you're planning on expanding your audio inputs, like if you're going to put in a third PC or if you're going to be adding a second microphone. You know, the unit just doesn't have that kind of capability. At that point, you might be able to work around it with you know, optical cables or, you know, some other gadgetry. But if you're going to only be doing a 1 PC or 2 PC setup, this is probably ideal for an in-game setup. I wouldn't recommend it though if you like tinkering with stuff and you're willing to put your head on a desk and just bang it back and forth. You know, you could probably emulate a lot of the features with something like this. This is the Behringer Q802. This is what I've been using in the past, and I've had pretty good success with it. It's only about $80, but the software and the ecosystem that GoXLR provides knocks this thing out of the park. And like I said, this has been frustrating. This has a lot of ground noise effects going on. I only have like one device accessible to me, so routing and wires and cables and stuff gets frustrating. So the GoXLR really is just cut and dry, easier, and works. That's all I can say about it. Thanks guys for watching. Hope y'all have had a great time. You know, I love testing this kind of hardware. I stream it live to Twitch at twitch.tv/theturk. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights. We do hardware talk, we do PC builds, all that fun stuff. Make sure you check by the channel. Also hit the subscribe button down below. We're trying to grow our YouTube channel a little bit, and this will help me grow as well as let you know when I'm gonna have my GoXLR versus Xenyx Q802USB review. It's gonna be great. But again, thanks for watching guys. Hope y'all have a great night. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.